Panthers comeback falls short in game 1 in Toronto. And we have to ask the question, will Sam Bennett face any discipline?
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, May 6th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And make sure to subscribe and also press that like button down below. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So, Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. And the Panthers were back in action on Monday as they face off against the Toronto Maple Leafs in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, where unfortunately the Panthers did lose by a final score of 5-4, and the Panthers were playing from behind. That was the key for the Leafs, that they had the lead and never surrendered it once throughout this matchup. And the Panthers and it was kind of low event, not low event, but it was hard for the Panthers to just establish their forecheck early on and create their chances. And the Panthers, they tried coming back in the third period after tilting the ice basically for the last 40 minutes of the game, actually. But unfortunately, the Toronto Maple Leafs come out with the win, and the Panthers fall behind 0-1 in this series. And here to break down this loss by the Florida Panthers against the Toronto Maple Leafs, he is from the podcast that sometimes talks about Panthers hockey, but sometimes they don't. Jacob Langsam from Panther Pourri is here. Jacob, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much for having me on. Happy to kick off round 2 with you, bud.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure talking hockey with you on and off the record, my friend. So like I said at the beginning of the show, the Panthers, they unfortunately play from behind the whole night. I mean, 33 seconds into the game, a forecheck opportunity, which the Leafs got it back high to William Nylander, and then a great screen by John Tavares, which Evan Rodriguez was unable to close the gap on Nylander, and then a great screen by John Tavares. And then right before that second goal for the Leafs there, I mean, both teams were having a good amount of their one and dones. The Panthers had a power play after where it was a little shaky with them being in the neutral zone with the turnovers, and then they didn't really get a good amount of opportunities for them on that first one. They did, however, get a goal on the power play a little later on in that period, thanks to Seth Jones from the point. But then, I mean, it was the 2-goal deficit. I know that's in hockey, it's not a safe lead when it comes to 2-0, but I mean, air out of the balloon for the Panthers when it was just a turnover by AJ Greer, and then the shot from OEL saved by Sergei Bobrovsky, and then William Nylander finishes on the rebound where Jesper Boquist is a little late for that back check. So it's just like I said, air out of the balloon when it comes to the Panthers here. So when you look at this game, I mean, what I take away is the rush chances against for the Panthers here.
Yeah, and the Panthers are usually pretty good at defending those under Paul Maurice, or have been pretty good at defending those under Paul Maurice's system. And we saw a couple of lapses in round 1 also, with defensemen just making some really risky pinches that led to these odd man rushes. Fortunately, it wasn't as much of an issue against Tampa as far as them converting on those chances is concerned. But Toronto's going to make you pay on those. And they did, like you said, three of those goals off of really strong rush chances, a couple of them the result of some bad pinches. In particular, I think that last goal, that Matty Nyes goal, was a Nate Schmidt pinch where he just didn't quite have any support behind him due to slow change, and that's the result. It's not something that we've seen happen a ton under Paul Maurice, but unfortunately, it has become a little bit of a theme here in this postseason. Hopefully, something the Panthers can clean up moving forward.
Yeah, and then 4 shots in the first period for them. It's not. I mean, slow getting out of the gate. It's really costly. And I mean, credit to the Leafs as well, that when they got the puck on their stick and they were separating the puck for them, not hesitating on breakouts neither. That was a big key that I saw in the first period for them. Fewest shots on goal that the Panthers had all postseason. So I mean, it's a new round. It's reset for everyone here, for players on both sides. But also, I mean, the pushback that we saw for the Toronto Maple Leafs throughout this game. I mean, there was a reverse hit that Jake McCabe had on Dmitry Kucherov. There was one that Matthew Knies got on Seth Jones in the corner, and then later on, Max Pacioretty on Nico Sturm. I mean, we warned people, at least I did, about how different the Leafs' identity has been coming into this season with new coach Craig Berube. Yeah, there's still a lot of hockey to be played, but it really proved in game one.
Yeah, we were talking to Dom Luszczyszyn from The Athletic before round 2 started, and he even mentioned Toronto has kind of tried to copy Florida's identity since that series in 2023, and you really saw it tonight. Like you said, Knies was throwing the body around. Pacioretty, NHL vet, known offensive player, he's throwing the body around, and the Toronto team that's all speed, no toughness. That's a thing of the past, and it's a really interesting parallel when you look at like the President's Trophy Panthers that were very similar. That was just a very high-paced Andrew Brunette coach team that just couldn't really stand up to the tough guys of the NHL. You get Paul Maurice in, you become the tough guys. You do the same thing to Toronto, and now they're copying suit. So the blueprint is there, and Toronto's not going to be pushovers like some historical identity of theirs might imply.
Yeah, and people might just look at the logo and see from the past and until proven otherwise, which I understand for them. But and when you think about for the Panthers here, and just I mean, yeah, they go into the second period down 3-1. Unfortunately, the Panthers don't get any goals in the second period, but they're able to at least tilt the ice a little bit for them. I mean, especially with the shot attempts for them. I mean, for them, it was 20-7 at 5-on-5. So I'm like, okay, we're starting to see a little bit of getting pucks in deep as well, getting in on their forecheck. Okay, but I mean, just the key of the second period was TV timeouts. After a TV timeout, the Chris Tanev gets a goal off a face-off win, which we thought it was redirected by Knies at first, and then saw a replay. He didn't touch the puck, so probably a goal that Sergei Bobrovsky should have. Yeah. And then later on, after another TV timeout, Joseph Woll comes into the game after the Panthers had a power play really early on in that second period, which we'll talk about the hit from Sam Bennett, the collision of him and Anthony Stolarz in segment number 3. But for the Panthers, I mean, that was really the start of things changing for them, and just momentum for them. And then even in the third period, they get a goal 2 minutes in. The third line came to play once again, and just continuing on for them. And then just another one, just less than 3 minutes later, off a nice forecheck, low to high, D to D, and then Uvis Belinskis beats Joseph Woll on the far side glove, and that's. Sergei Bobrovsky gave up a goal that he shouldn't have. Joseph Woll, the same thing for him. And also, Jacob, we saw a penalty kill for the Panthers that was kind of similar to Game 7 of last year, where there's a broken stick and there's a stick by a forward given to a defenseman that's not the right side for him. In the case of Seth Jones, right-handed shot, breaks his stick, and then Nico Sturm gives him a left-handed stick. So the momentum really started to carry for the Panthers there, especially after a big kill. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. We saw it in Game 4 against Tampa, and then this time around, it was a little bit of a momentum shift for the Panthers after a big kill.
Yeah, that Panthers penalty kill has been tremendous all postseason. And, I know we're going to hit on 3 duds later, but while we're talking about it, I want to make sure that we give some flowers to Seth Jones, who defensively looked tremendous tonight. He played a one-on-one against Matthew Knies perfectly to prevent what would have been a grade A scoring chance without taking a penalty. Then on that penalty kill that you're talking about right now, he covered Bob's blind side on the side of the net. to prevent what also would have been a really, really nice shot for Toronto. Like, he made some really key defensive plays, especially in that third period, to keep that Panthers momentum alive. And of course, also had that first goal for Florida. Just really, really strong performance by Seth Jones tonight. And relative to, I want to backtrack just a second to something you mentioned about how strong the Panthers were 5-on-5 in the second half, second 2/3 of that game. Shot attempt share was close to 30-70 in Toronto's favor in the first period. You can call it score effects if you want, but in the second and third period, when the Panthers were really trying to mount that comeback, it was like in the 70s, between 70 and 80 in Florida's favor for both the second and third periods. So really, this team knows how to turn it on. They had a long break in between the series, came out a little cold, but I think there is a lot to look forward to, and I know we'll discuss that more in depth later on as well.
Yeah, like with Toronto, like I said, 44% Corsi for in round one, and we kind of saw how that manifested in the final 40 for them. It's just a little bit of a slow start for the Panthers here, and it sometimes those can cost you hockey games in the case of the Panthers here. But we got a lot more to get to on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We are going to discuss our 3 duds of the game and the moment where we knew the game was lost. We'll discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
An award-winning mattress can change your life. I speak from experience. It happened to me. After years of uncomfortable sleeps, I recently switched to Bear Mattress, and the results were instant. Bear Mattress is designed with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. I used to deal with night sweats, but Bear's best-in-class cooling ensures optimal temperature regulation, which prevents overheating and helps me stay comfortable all night long. Bear offers a wide variety of mattresses, but to get the right one for you, take their sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on body type and sleep preferences. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Segment 2 here on this Tuesday, May 6th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Tuesday as the Florida Panthers lose to the Leafs by a final score of 5-4. Here with Jacob Langsam of Panther Pourri here to break it all down. And let's get to our 3 duds of the game for the Panthers here. Honorable mention, I'm not because I don't know if I can necessarily put him as one of the duds because of the rush D. Bob is one of the honorable mentions, as you wish you could see at least one of those stops on the breakaway opportunities that the Leafs had for them. But all 3 of my duds are defensemen for the Panthers. Number 3 dud is Uvis Belinskis. Like we mentioned, a big miscommunication. 4 guys on the ice. Yes, Sam Reinhart did get tripped by Jake McCabe there. But this is the product of whenever with the suspension of Aaron Ekblad and you're consistently mixing and matching your D pairs when Paul Maurice and Sylvain Lefebvre love to keep them consistent. And that was maybe a moment for the Panthers where it kind of bit them as we're used to Nate Schmidt and Kulikov in that situation. So Nate Schmidt was on the ice. You mentioned the pinch, but also Uvis Belinskis a little late on getting on the ice. Number 2 dud for me, Niko Mikkola. Silly penalties. Had a hard time closing the gap on some of the even on some of the entries for the Leafs here, and just we saw that silly penalty that he had in Game 4 on Gergensons, and then there was that, and I mentioned the momentum shift after that penalty kill for the Panthers, all that, and then just taken away after going on the kill again for the Panthers after that elbow to Yarncrook in the neutral zone, and I mean. It's just we've seen it a few times for Niko Mikkola on just how silly that that the Panthers can when they try to take liberties against the opposition. And number one dud, I'm gonna go with Dmitry Kulikov here. Multiple bad reads on pinches, and then it resulted in those rush chances against, especially too early on for the Panthers here. So who are your 3 duds of the game?
I'm also going to give a very quick honorable mention to Matthew Tkachuk, who just was a little more invisible than you'd like to see a player of his ilk be in a game like this, especially during that comeback. I believe he did have the primary assist on one of those goals. I don't remember which one, but I believe he did have it. But other than that, I really would have liked to see a little bit more out of Tkachuk in this game in particular. But 3 duds, I agree wholeheartedly. Kulikov and Mikkola being 2 of them. Kulikov just got bullied all game. A guy that Paul Maurice really trusts as that veteran presence on the blue line for the Panthers. Someone who was instrumental in the Stanley Cup clinching goal last year. Someone that usually is very reliable. Just really didn't seem up to snuff tonight, getting pushed around by Toronto. Probably the biggest offender of what we mentioned in the first segment of kind of underestimating the toughness and the strength of today's Toronto Maple Leafs. Mikkola, same issue that you have with him. Bit of a momentum killer. It's tough when Aaron Ekblad is out. Usually Seth Jones has been playing with Mikkola. When the Panthers have been fully healthy. I know there were a small handful of games in between the Panthers acquiring Seth Jones and Aaron Ekblad getting suspended and then resuspended. But the games that Jones and Mikkola played together, they were excellent together. And without Jones, without the reliability of Seth Jones and his mobility, it's kind of left Nico Mikkola a little high and dry in this postseason so far. So I think that he did kind of vacuum away a bit of that momentum during the third period comeback opportunity. And I just agree with that choice. And my number 1, I'm going Jesper Boquist, a player that I have been very high on, generally speaking, this season. Just wasn't doing what he needed to do on the 4th line tonight. He was behind in his back checking. And that's surprising from him because he's usually a much better skater, a fast skater, responsible defensively. So, seeing him kind of fall behind in that realm today, very disappointing from a player that you have generally come to trust in those situations. He's more or less been the worst Panthers forward that has played all 6 now postseason games for Florida. Just a really disappointing showing from him in general, and maybe that's souring on him relative to making him my number 1 dud tonight. Maybe that's a little harsh, but I've been very disappointed in him in general, and he just wasn't doing what you generally trust him to do tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking back at NHL.com on the simulator because the camera view, when you're actually watching the actual highlight, it doesn't show the off the puck for how fast he was going. He didn't close in on the speed on Nylander on that second goal until the rebound happened. So it looked like he wasn't. It looked like that it was really late reacting on that one. So it really hurt the Panthers and just them falling behind multiple 2-goal deficits and then that 1-goal deficit at the very end where they got the goal on the 6-on-5. And yeah, good point on bringing up Matthew Tkachuk. His time on ice was up for this game, 1906 on the night, 26 shifts, 0 shots on goal for him. Did get that primary assist on Seth Jones's power play goal, but just nothing to show for it. So, I mean, and his line mate, Sam Bennett, 7 shots on goal for him as well. So you hope to see more from Matthew Tkachuk here, as we both know that he's still really trying to get his legs under him when it comes to just coming back from that injury. So you gotta think that he's still playing hurt from as he was skating away from the group even before they left from Toronto for a game 1. But let's talk about the moment where we knew the game was lost. And for me, the broadcast even mentioned it. No third period comebacks no 3-goal comebacks, for the Panthers in their history for them in the postseason. So Chris Tanev's goal, where it was off the draw, a D to D, and then he gets it past Sergei Bobrovsky. That was the moment where I'm just like, man, this is going to be a tough comeback for the Panthers here. I thought about the breakaway goal from Knies, but I'm just thinking no. This is usually the Panthers and their style, and under this coaching staff, usually it's when it's not President's Trophy Panthers where you see Game 5 against Washington in round 1 just a few years ago, where it's like 3-0 and then they win 5-3. The Panthers are just not built for that kind of hockey. So the Chris Tanev goal for me is the moment where I knew the game was lost.
Yeah, because the game did end 5-4 with the Panthers having offensive zone possession, I would love to say I didn't think it was over until that final buzzer. But unfortunately, I have a bevy of receipts from the Chris Tanev goal that tell a different story as well. I think you and I might spend a little too much time together, Mondo, because once again, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you that the Chris Tanev goal was the moment that I kind of said, well, if that's going in, I don't see a path back. They did make a game out of it. It did get real close. That was a goal that made it 4-1, and the Panthers did end up losing 5-4. So ostensibly, you could argue that they did tie the Tanev goal, but that was kind of the moment where you thought, well, it's similar to me to the Nate Schmidt pair of goals against Tampa. That if that's the player that you're letting score on you, you're probably not winning that game.
Yeah. Fair enough, as we know that Chris Tanev is more of a defensive defenseman.
Right.
And there's a part of me that really had that hope, especially because the Panthers lose the puck in the neutral zone and Austin Matthews is unable to nail the empty net. It brings me back to Game 4 against the Washington Capitals back in 2022, where Faravari misses the empty net, and then the Panthers end up tying that game and prevent themselves from going down 3-1 and then end up winning in overtime. The first of Carter Hagee's overtime winners for them. So I'm just thinking, oh man, can we actually see it? Can we have drama in the first game of the 2025 second round after the excitement that we saw throughout the weekend with Winnipeg and Dallas for them? So unfortunately, close but no cigar. But we will actually continue the conversation on the other side of this, where we'll discuss actually a little bit of how we're feeling just about the loss, and just our thoughts on the collision between Sam Bennett and Anthony Stolarz back in the second period. We're going to discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by wonderful pistachios. And looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Third and final segment here on this Tuesday, May 6th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Here with Jacob Langsam of Panther Pourri to discuss everything with Game 1 of this second round series between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs, as the Panthers dropped this game by a final score of 5-4, a comeback that fell short for them. So it's funny. I haven't really checked Twitter too much, but I tweeted immediately after the final horn sound went off that I wasn't too discouraged by this loss for the Panthers. I mean, looking at it like this, tilted the ice in the last 40 minutes. They went 5 for 5 on the PK for the Panthers. Even the Toronto Maple Leafs, they found a way to shoot themselves in the foot getting a too many men on the ice call for them. And the thing is, I'm looking at this on Natural Stat Trick. The Leafs had 7 total shots in their 5 power plays, so just over a shot per power play for them. So the way the Panthers were able to just stick their sticks in lanes, and also even on that one that we mentioned earlier with the broken stick, there were times where the Leafs were just indecisive, just holding on to the puck too long, and that plays really into the Panthers game. And also, if the Panthers fix the rush D, I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah. I'm also feeling strangely optimistic after that loss. The Panthers played some of the worst hockey that we've seen them play in a while for the first period and change, and still made a very compelling game out of it. If you look at Natural Stat Trick's game flow chart, you can pinpoint the exact moment that the Panthers woke up. There's a very clear moment where it's just kind of steady Leafs and then just goes all Panthers for the rest of the game. If Toronto playing a near perfect game and Florida floundering for half the game resulted in a 5-4 thriller, I think the Panthers are in very good shape. And you see it right there, right after that third blue bar, you see a tiny speck of something, and then it just goes straight down for the rest of the game. So I think that there's a very compelling narrative here that should lead to Panthers fans being pretty confident about the remainder of this series. The Panthers got their legs under them during that second period, and the game was all Panthers after that. I don't think Sergei Bobrovsky has as bad of a game as he had again in this series. I don't think you see William Nylander have that good of a game. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's not putting that one past Bob, that first goal past Bob again. I hope. If he does, we have more serious problems to discuss on a later episode. There were just things kind of went right for Toronto for the most part. There's one glaring thing that went horribly wrong for Toronto, and for the most part, things went pretty poorly for the Panthers, except for the PK, and still they almost completed a 3-goal third period comeback. So if you're basing it on that flow, Panthers fans shouldn't be too worried about dropping game 1. The goal here is to split the away series and then take it home tied.
Yeah, and honestly, quietly, John Tavares had a really good game. Set the screen, drew that penalty on Sam Bennett after the battle down low for them, and that's one player that hasn't been that we didn't mention who had a good game, but he's notoriously killed the Panthers with the exception of the 2023 series against them. But William Nylander, we've seen this before from him, so hopefully the Panthers find a way to stop him. Hey, they stopped Austin Matthews for the most part here in this game for them, kept him and Mitch Marner off the scoreboard for them, even though Mitch Marner did get an assist for him. But yeah, we got to talk about the big talking point that came out of game 1 for this one, and that was the collision between Sam Bennett and Anthony Stolarz. Pierre LeBrun did tweet that Panthers PR did not make Bennett available to the media after the game today to discuss everything, because we know that was a question that was going to be asked. The collision happened while the Panthers were on the power play. When power play 2 was on, Anthony Stolarz plays for 10 more minutes after that, and then a TV timeout. Joseph Woll comes in. But we did not see a video until after of Stolarz vomiting on the bench, and that was when Joseph Woll comes in. But obviously, as someone who's had a concussion, sometimes you have that feeling of vomiting as well. So there is definitely a possibility of that being related to the collision there. But they showed a bird's eye view of it, of the collision. When you look at it from the bird's eye, yes, Sam Bennett has that reputation. We know what happened to Marchand last year. Matthew Nyes, even in the series 2 years ago between these two. Jacob Slavin, what happened between Sam Bennett and him. But I'm looking at this, and I don't see an extension. Goalie interference, maybe. And we know that for Panther Pourri and for here Locked On Panthers, we try not to be too homer here. I was very harsh on Aaron Ekblad when he extended on Brandon Hagel. I just don't see this one as something that Sam Bennett should go harsh on Sam Bennett for, because I didn't know. Number one, I didn't see an extension, and number two, the fact that I guess because these two know each other and they fought for a Stanley Cup last year, I don't think Bennett would go that far to go after the head purposely against Anthony Stolarz in that situation.
Right. I don't think there was any intent behind it for that reason. You know, there's a big difference between friends off the ice, enemies on the ice, and throwing an elbow at a head. You know, there's a huge line between enemies on the ice and intent to injure. My initial reaction, my knee-jerk reaction was, wow, Sam Bennett with another dirty elbow. I can't believe he's doing this again, except I can. But with each successive watch of the replay, that bird's eye view that you were talking about, Bennett is chasing a rebound. He's going for a puck. Stolarz is going for the same puck. There is no arm extension. And yes, head contact should always be taken seriously.
Correct.
In no way are we trying to downplay Sam Bennett's arm. Definitely made contact with Anthony Stolarz's head. But there was no extension on the elbow. It was a follow-through of taking a shot, followed by turning to try to get the rebound, and the unfortunate incidental contact was to Anthony Stolarz's head, who was trying to also get that rebound and make sure that the Panthers didn't have a second chance at it. Does that excuse head contact? No. Do I think Sam Bennett deserves supplemental discipline? Probably not. He is a repeat offender if he does get a call from Department of Player Safety, so I think that could play into it. The narrative just around Sam Bennett kind of being that type of player. There are those optics to the situation, but I don't think it was intentional, and I don't think he was trying to do anything nasty. He was just crashing the net for a rebound. You know, I don't think his skates ever even entered the crease until after the contact. You kind of see his right skate breeze through the blue paint a little bit after the fact. But you know, I really just think that Bennett was trying to go for his own rebound. Stolarz was going for the same puck, and they collided.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also worth noting that just a few minutes earlier, Anthony Stolarz had taken a 90-mile-an-hour slap shot, a wrist shot from Sam Reinhart, straight to the mask. That's not going to help a concussion either.
Yeah, for what it's worth there. And also, the best way I could describe it with the collision, chicken wing. It was a chicken wing there for Sam Bennett there. And I mean, the thing is, for the Leafs here, there wasn't any of those post-whistle scrums after the fact trying to so they have a good view of it, the guys who are actually on the ice. So the fact that and when you put a name, a face to a name, and then you hear incidents over and over again for him, but the fact that we didn't see that kind of retaliation from Toronto,
right?
I think if anything, just to cool down the temperature, I would think a fine. It's not my money. Yeah, it's Sam Bennett's money. I get it. So I have no reason to worry about it. But maybe the Department of Player Safety would go to the point of a fine just to cool down the temperature.
Right. And I think the post-whistle scrum is a really important note here. There was a little bit of shoving, I think, between Bennett and Matthew Nyes after the fact, but it's not like the Leafs all just dogpiled on Sam Bennett because they saw this malicious, vicious throw of an elbow. Like, it was just a very normal, hey, you made contact with my goalie, don't do that kind of shove. Maybe they give him a game to send a message because it is Sam Bennett, but I'm with you. I really don't think there should be more than a fine, and I hope that doesn't get taken as us being homers or us being biased or ignorant about the situation. But yeah, I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see once this is released, and we'll see if Leaf fans jump on the comments. So, which have no reason to believe that they won't do it. So, I am prepared for anything here for this. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Panthers dropped this game 5-4. But have an opportunity to still steal home ice advantage on Wednesday night against Toronto. So tell everybody where they can find you online, my friend.
You can find me on Twitter at PTPJacob, or you can follow the podcast at Panther Pourri, spelled right there on the screen, just without the space in the handle. The podcast goes up normally every week, but during the playoffs, we do an episode for each game. Currently airing on YouTube. Normally you can find us on wherever you get your podcasts. So thanks for following along, Armando. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Absolutely. And I will see you again very soon, my friend.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Langsam, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.